Everybody, thank you so much for coming out to the stream. You're here with Shirviu, Vaski, and Lhok with Shinies and Luckydos. Hey guys, this is going to be our second ever classic WoW themed stream. And of course, just like everybody else, we're going to be talking about the developer Watercooler for classic WoW that just came out really recently here. So we're basically going to get into that. Now, I'm not going to pull it up on the screen. I figure most of you have probably read it like multiple times at this point. If you're in this stream and you want to watch like a 2-hour deep dive about it, you probably already know what it's about. So I'd recommend you can just pull it up on your own screen, but we're going to go over it in detail. We have already kind of heard a lot of other people's takes on the matter. We've heard, you know, there's been a lot of hype and discussion around it. And we have our own take, we have our own opinions. We're not big private server players, so of course we're going to have a different take on 1.12. We were more vanilla players. But yeah, it'll be interesting to discuss this, to see what we all think about it. And there are certain points that I feel like haven't really been touched on much, at least in the reviews of the article that I've seen. So hopefully we can try and clarify a bit of that. Okay, so let's start right off. I wanted to ask you guys, what was your first impressions when you first saw this? When it first went up on the website, everyone was talking about it, and you read it for the first time. Personally, my first reaction is a lot different than how I feel about it now. So I don't know. Did you want to start, Vaski? How did you feel about it?
I was really excited at first because I was like, oh my god, finally. We're getting some clarification of what they're doing for a route regarding Classic. Because, I mean, all three of us here are big fans of Classic. We've loved it from the get-go. It's built this huge love in my heart for it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am so excited about it. And I actually was really excited that they picked um 1.12 drums of war for it. So I was just like, oh, thank goodness. I'm like, balance. That's the initial reaction I had, is like some balance.
And then after kind of like deliberating a bit, looking at it through, you feel pretty much the same way?
I'm half and half. I'm a little wary of what they mean by conveniences to this day, because I'm like, are they trying to bring in retail WoW conveniences? What do they mean by conveniences? Because the sky's the limit on that one.
All right, and Lhok, how did you kind of take the whole thing?
I was happy that that it was put up on the website, and I remember as I was reading through, going from it was a mixed emotions from outrage that it was 1.12 to confusion as to why they would be putting in certain things like conveniences and I think at the end of it, I like sort of walked away from it going, well, I feel like Classic's going to be ruined.
Yeah. Uh, honestly, that's me too. And I'd like to think that honestly most people probably went through that. When you see a content creator come on and they give their review, I feel like maybe at that point they've thought about it a lot and hopefully they've gotten over the wave of emotions. But it was definitely a roller coaster for me. Like when I first saw it, I was a little bit shooketh. Like I was like really, I mean, I guess I'm a bit of a pessimist in a way, and I'm a bit too analytical, a bit too critical, and my first reaction was honestly apprehension. I was really happy that they gave us any news at all, and I'm happy the project's moving along. I'm happy they consider us a priority and that communicating with us is a priority, that they would make this announcement so close to the BFA launch. Like there's so many good things about it, but when I first read it was like all of the concerns were popping out, right? Because that's the big thing, is how is the game gonna actually look. I don't know if it was the same for you, Lhok.
Uh, yeah, pretty much. Like, I was like, oh, cool. They've reaching out, telling us what's going on. Like, I like read it really quickly, and then like I went back and read over it again, and the second time through when I was reading, I'm like, oh no, patch point 1.12. Oh no, convenience. The only thing that I was like super excited about was the anti-cheating capabilities.
In terms of what they were saying, yeah, I guess I can see that.
And the reason why I got super excited about like the mentioning that they're going to try and put like modern security anti-cheating capabilities in there is because gold sellers and account hacking and that sort of stuff was the bane of my existence back in vanilla. I mean, it's still the bane of my existence now. Like, I hate the fact that people do that sort of stuff. But like, yeah, so I was excited about that, but everything else was like, oh no, oh no.
Speaking of which, have you ever like had that problem happen to you? I've like out of all of my like 14 years of playing, I've never been hacked or had any of that happen to me.
Yeah, I had my account hacked in BC, and I lost all of my bits and pieces that I had in my bank from raiding, my time raiding and PvPing and all like the cool like quest items, such as I remember doing the Eastern Plaguelands Battle for Darashir, and you got a shield, and you can't get that shield anymore, and I lost that when my account was hacked. So I can't get it back, and yeah, just rage-inducing bullshit, really.
Wow,
I don't know how I would
I'm so
survive.
sorry.
If I lost some of my original stuff, I would have been so mad because that's when I was the most invested in the game. But it's kind of a sad story. I quit the game right at the end of Wrath, 2 months before Kata, because I had given up on World of Warcraft. Like I was quitting for good. I thought the game had been destroyed, and I quit in a rage, and I was never to return. So I never cared when my account got hacked. It did, over the long time that I didn't play, it eventually was compromised, and I didn't even try to get my account information back. I was like, I'm never touching that game again. Like, that game is dead to me. And that's the sad state of the game in Cataclysm. That was a bad time. So back to you know to your first impressions here with the thing with the article. I definitely was impressed with the anti-hacking thing, but I feel like that's kind of to be expected. So hopefully that's not that's not really the highlight of the article for you, Luck.
Right? My God.
I don't know if you could have like seen me when it all went down. I'm pretty sure you'd understand just how excited I am that they're putting that in.
That's true.
I cried, guys. I cried.
I bet.
Oh, Murky, I am so sorry. Losing a corrupted Ashbringer, my heart breaks for you.
That's nuts. Were any of you guys some of those people who dropped or like sold important gear from back in vanilla because you were like, like no big deal? I heard you guys know Preacher. He actually got rid of his anathema staff, his benediction anathema staff, and you cannot repeat the quest. Once you've done the quest, it is not repeatable. You cannot obtain it again even if you wanted to. And he actually put in a ticket and he was like, can you please allow me to repeat the quest? And rip. Like, rest in peace. I can't believe that.
Yeah. Oof. That's rough.
I did actually manage to get my Rock and Lock Dalal back after my account got hacked, so I was pretty happy with that. I think I would have just been like done, no coming back whatsoever if that had have disappeared.
Well, now that you mention it, I'm having all these flashbacks. Like, there was actually a lot of people who, at least in vanilla, were affected by hacking and who actually quit for a time, had, let's say, withdrawal from their addiction to WoW, and they made new accounts and started all over again. And now that you're mentioning this, it's like coming back to me, all these stories, and I'm like, damn, that was a big problem. Okay, well, how about we get into the actual article? Vaski, did you want to start us off with what they've got to say at first?
Sure. I'll get right to that. Actually, Gintoki in the chat is actually asking what the three of us are going to play in Classic. Do we want to answer?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Because most of these guys in our stream right now, thank you so much for like attending. Because this is our second ever Classic stream, so you guys don't even know much about our Classic priorities here, but we're planning, we're scheming.
I mean, for me, I know what classes I'm going to be playing. I'm definitely going to be playing, I hate to say it, like a lot of people are probably going to cringe unless they do change trolls around, but I personally love trolls, so I'm going to be a troll male warrior and a troll shaman. Those are my two priorities for Classic.
And shocking to no one, I'm also going to be a troll warrior.
Hey.
I've never mained a warrior before, so like I could, my plans could change, right? It seems like everyone has lofty dreams of being a warrior in Classic, and it defeats them. I will not be defeated. But I was a warlock back in vanilla. I've mained a warlock to this day, and I will also be playing a warlock in Classic, but I'm expecting that to be my secondary character, and I want to switch to a warrior main, so we'll see how that goes. What about you, Lhok?
I'd probably end up going. I'll probably end up leveling like I usually do in any X pack. And what I did in vanilla is I multi-leveled classes, so I always had one on the go. But I'll probably end up being a resto druid, a hunter, and a shaman or a warlock, because they were my classes back in vanilla. I was a resto druid, I was a hunter, and I was a warlock back in vanilla, so I'll probably end up going back to them.
I also want to mention, you can see right here, troll warrior, what? I'm Alliance, but these guys here are going Horde, so I'm being forced.
Sorry. Not sorry. Horde is the best.
I'm a minority.
I mean in vanilla terms, yes, progression-wise, Alliance is key in many things, but I definitely prefer Horde. I just like the grittiness of it, and when original vanilla came out, it was just so metal and just dirty, and I loved it.
But yeah, I'll probably end up being the a Tauren hunter if I can ever get past the swoop taming.
If I'm gonna be completely honest, I was a naive 12-year-old who rolled a human because I couldn't comprehend the depth and complexity of the other characters. I was one of those people, those scrubs who thought the Horde was evil. when I made my tune, because I hadn't played. I had played the RPG, like I had played the RTS games, but somehow even through them I thought the Horde was evil, because obviously the orcs are depicted as some like weird invaders, and to a 12-year-old mind you don't understand the complexity of the situation and the prejudice involved. But I quickly learned, thankfully, like by BC I was a Hordey at heart. Like I've always understood and like related to the Horde story more so than the Alliance. It was just like the unfortunate first faction I rolled, and I just kind of knew people and I stuck to it. But I'm not unhappy to roll Horde. I will be Horde, you know, in Classic. We'll see. Double agent.
Except that you like cows. You got Tauren. You'll be happy.
That's true. I love Tauren. Too Canadian.
Right.
It's like the
Right.
token Canadian race. Okay, so let's start looking at the article. We'll be here for like 5 hours talking about vanilla.
Right? All right, guys. So we're heading into the first part of where they are doing their greetings. Greetings development of World of Warcraft Classic is underway, and we're very excited to share some of those challenges and solutions we're working on. As we mentioned last BlizzCon, the process of restoring the classic game is not straightforward, and it is important to us to take the time and effort to get it right. This includes poring over numerous game versions, data, and code, meticulously scrutinizing all the changes we've made over the years. Rest assured, though, the WoW Classic team is hard at working, making it a reality, and we're at a point in the development where we're ready to share some of the things we've been working on.
So I definitely think there's a couple key things here. Yeah, a lot of people who've reviewed this article, sure, they're just, you know, doing a cursory review. They're not being hyper analytical like we are, but they skip that. They're just like, yeah, you know, beginning spiel, like nothing, no take homes from there. But this is the only point in the entire article where they're acknowledging the fact that they're reviewing the different versions of the game. Like, they're basically saying they're poring over the different patches. That's how I interpret that. Because we're talking about the classic sphere. They're not talking about the expansions, right? And the changes they've made over the years would be from 2004 to 2006, I'd say. So really, that's key to me for people like me and Lhok. And I don't know how you feel about it, Vaski, but we were hardcore 1.1. Well, it was a 1.2. The first patch was 1.2, 1.1 was beta, but we were hardcore. We wanted to start at 1.2 and have actually a real Blizz-like patch cycle. It seems like we're probably, I'm still on board that we're going to get a progressive patch cycle, but I don't think it's going to be Blizz-like. I think they're going to make something up. What do you guys think?
I'm slightly apprehensive on that because my favorite thing was going through those patch cycles. I mean, granted, yes, there was a lot of brokenness to it, a lot of quirkiness that added to the game throughout it, but for them going through the different game versions, we're going through data, we're even possibly going into with engines and possibly getting updated graphics. And I want that, like, of course we're not going to get that original vanilla feel of like playing it all over again like it's a brand new game, but I do want that patch progression. I want to feel kind of that mysticism about it, going back into it and how whimsical it was.
At this point, I'd be happy with any type of patch progression that makes sense, even if it's not Blizz-like. Because, I mean, I don't know what to say. When you look back at the first interviews that J. Allen Brack was doing for Forbes, for example, he really made it sound like they weren't willing to weed out all the issues that reproducing the original patch cycle would cause. And a lot of people in the community seem to think it's a lofty expectation for them to actually reproduce that as it was, with plane striding, with original mounts, original mount skills, no journeyman apprentice riding. Like there's so many things that people don't realize that probably will not be included in Classic. It's seeming like.
I'm okay with like not having all the crazy weird in-betweens and the glitches and all of that, and getting a polished game. I'm talking more about patch progression of like content. new things, like you said, with like mounts finally becoming available, like things that really like was like almost like a game changer in the world for this game. And so that's what I definitely want to see. I want to see the Gates of Encourage again. I loved the Naxxramas events when those went out. Like I just like butterflies thinking about that. I've just loved all the different ziggurats going over to Naris, all that kind of stuff. I would love to see that all over again.
Yeah, I want to go back. I want to experience again 15-man UBRS, 10-man Stratton Scholar, like, you know, like raid, almost raid tier, like dungeons. They were, I think, if I'm being absolutely honest, they were some of the most fun I have ever had. Cramming so many people into the Strat Undead Side's gates just before, and then having someone accidentally jump on the box and pull all the sludge belches in, and then everyone wiping and then having a sook. But it was like my favorite time. I want to experience that again. I want to experience planes running. I know people don't like that on the Taurens, but I want to experience that again. I want to see people riding around on their mounts that have no armor. I think it was a great injustice what they did with the armored mounts for the Night Elves. I really, really liked the unarmored Night Sabers. I couldn't get behind the Night Sabers with the armor. It's actually one of the reasons why I swapped from my main, which was a Night Elf Hunter, to Horde, was because I didn't like those mounts. Superficial, I know, but hey, that's what I was like back in the day.
Right?
I want to see people kiting bosses around, like things that with the current systems, like we're going to go into a bit more how they've decided they're going to go about Classic, but if they're taking a current client and backporting it and removing content until they get to that patch, only implementing the content of that patch, to me it sounds like all of the back-end systems that are pulling that data out of their databases are operating akin to Legion or BFA. And if that's true and they're not tweaking it in any way, we're not going to get realistic spell queuing for Classic. We're not going to get realistic like radiuses for kiting monsters. There's a lot of implications in that, and it's like, are they going to change how Legion works fundamentally for Classic, or is it going to be Legion-like in those regards, in the back-end system, how you know, how it's actually translating the data in the databases that they're currently working on. I feel like that's what they're saying when they're like, well, it's been over a decade that we've been working on the spaghetti code and trying to get it all straightened out, and now you're telling us we have to straighten it all out again? Hell no. Like, we're going to work with the straightened bits, and if we need to, artificially put some kinks in it, then we will, is like kind of how I'm interpreting that. And it's like, I hope they know what's important to us and what's not, and where you want to reproduce the experience and where you don't.
I totally agree.
To be honest, I don't mind if we go back in time and there's like a small window where paladins can like save up reckoning charges and then go and wreck bomb like Kazakh.
Can we not? Can we not have that?
I don't know. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion. But I feel like for the greater good of the game, we probably shouldn't have game-breaking bugs at all, even if they were in Classic. I think that's probably for the best. But you're perfectly welcome to selfishly desire those for your own enjoyment and amusement at the expense of everyone else, Lhok. That's fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah, and they have me cry in the corner being like, fuck this shit, I'm out.
The best was, this actually happened to us. We were all lined up ready to go to start our pool on Kazakh, and a paladin just charges up on his horse and wreck bombs him in front of us.
She's laughing. I doubt she was. Were you laughing when it happened? Or were you like, oh, god damn it?
It was hilarious. My guild, on the other hand, no. They were not happy at all.
Yeah, I'd be the one that would not be happy. I'd just be like, God, I fucking need a nap.
Honestly, I would like to see certain things, certain gimmicky things, like planes running, for a small amount of time, but it's not fair to an extent to force that upon level 40 Taurens and that they don't have that option where the other races do, and then later on that would be changed and they know when it's being changed to have that option that might influence whether people roll Taurens at the start as their mains. Like, I'm not sure if the implications of that are worth, like, the gimmickiness of it. You probably completely disagree with me, Lhok.
Slightly.
Because, see, there's different types of players. Some people want to play Classic just for the experience, and they're not trying to min-max, they're not trying to be good. I'm not saying you're not trying to be good, Lhok. I didn't mean it like that. But, like, some people, they're more... Oh my god, she's taking offense. No. Okay. But, like, if you watch... I don't want to call out people's names, but if you watch certain videos, they're talking about, you know, what you should do in Classic. And clearly there's a huge difference between catering towards the people who want to be really good and optimized at the expense of fun versus the people who just want to have fun and they don't care if it's gonna, like, impact your freaking, like, optimal leveling path. This is cool, so let's have it, you know? And I think there's a big discrepancy between that. Lhok is probably more of the fun advocator than me. And probably, Vaski, what do you think? Are you siding with me or Lhok here?
There's a mix. I'm all in good fun. Like, I really love just real messed up kiting strats. I loved, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, griefing was kind of fun. So I mean, if we're gonna be real with this, yes, but at the same time, if it's in a raiding atmosphere, if you do it, I'm gonna need a nap afterwards because I'm too old.
Yeah,
That's how I feel about it.
fair enough. But
Best out for Baron. I mean, what?
No.
yeah, that's the thing, right? If they fix pet bombs, that's basically fixing the blood curse. And I think that everyone kind of knows deep down that that's not going to be a thing, but we're still all probably disappointed that it's not going to be a thing, right? I would think. Because
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of back on the subject of progressive content, Vaski, you were saying as long as they have progressive, like, PVE raid content, is that kind of what you were getting at? And you don't really care
Yes.
about the
I don't.
intricacies?
Yeah, I want it. I want it. I don't want it all pushed out at once. I can't. Like, I'll lose my mind. Like, no way. Like, that will just bug the crap out of me. I want people, even like some people might not agree with this in the classic community, that I want even the people in retail WoW that never got to experience stuff like this, I want them to experience this patch progression. And I'm saying, like, content, doing these Nax openings again and all that kind of stuff. I feel like even down to the people who play retail WoW and joined in later, I think they deserve to experience this kind of stuff, you know?
That's another thing. Like, this is our only opportunity to actually experience it exactly how it was. And thank you for the person who subscribed. I don't have your name up, but you can rewind and read their name, and that would be great. Okay, so I feel like that kind of covers that first little jumbly bit. You know, takeaway. They're actually reviewing the different versions of the game. They're reviewing the data and how it changed over the years, which means that they have a mind for a progressive cycle of some sort. It means, why would they bother reviewing that if they were just going to put out the game as it is and not have patches? Like, that's obviously not what they're doing. So that was incredibly good news for me.
Rick, thanks so much for subscribing, by the way. And that makes us so happy that we have a 6-year-old that's watching that. I mean, yes, girls play the game too, and there's a lot of them, actually. So, yeah, join in on us.
Hi, I'm saying hi to your daughter. Thank you. Okay, Lhok, did you want to read about the first prototype?
Sure. WoW Classic first prototype. The first and among the most important decisions we had to make was which version of the game to focus on. As many of you have noted, the Classic period was 2 years long and full of changes. Core features like Battlegrounds were introduced in the patches after WoW's original launch, and class design similarly changed over time. After careful consideration, we decided on patch 1.12 Drums of War as our foundation because it represents the most complete version of the Classic experience. Now, I'm just going to stop here. I'm going to ask you guys about Battlegrounds. Do you think, or when would you like to see Battlegrounds come in? I mean, me personally, I kind of hope that they don't come in straight away. I was a griefer. I certainly got griefed a lot on a PvP server, but I'm one of those people who thinks that like the Battlegrounds became too easy to get your honor and your HKs in, and once like the titles came in, so your high warlords, your senior sergeants, your stone guards, your knights, and whatnot, it stacked it in like the higher raiding guilds favors, and many people got locked out at the very top because you had like people just farming HKs in battlegrounds and pre-mades and all that sort of stuff.
Lhok,
What do you guys think?
this is such a controversial topic, so I'm happy there's 3 people here, so that you guys in the chat will probably at least agree with one of us. Chances are, and then we won't get crucified.
So I'm probably gonna be the one that's crucified. I want it out. Like I talked to Lhok a little bit about this. I'm okay with it not releasing right away, but I also would love to see it right away because that's the easiest way I can like Knight at like level 15. Like I don't care. Like bam. Like I did High Warlord back in the day, and I just absolutely loved it. I didn't sleep. I was an angry 14-year-old that was just like, rah! And like, just like go for gold, basically. And I wouldn't mind it being out right away, but at the same time, Lhok, you do have a great point of like the griefing and everything, but World PvP was great back then too, and I'm okay with that, especially in the opening of it. So, I mean, there's the highs and there's the lows, but I probably would prefer it out right away just because I'm a selfish bastard.
So Vaski, one thing to keep in mind is they could release the honor system without releasing Battlegrounds. And
very true.
So they could have the honor system right away where you're able to still become a knight, but that there's no Battlegrounds yet. Is that a bit better?
If I remember it correctly, that's how it actually started. Like you actually had your titles and stuff, and you had to go out and farm it in the world. And the other reason why I don't like Battlegrounds, I'm glaring at you, Vaski, is that I think if Battlegrounds came out straight away, we wouldn't have had like the Sorry Hill showdowns. We wouldn't have had the Taran Mill versus South Shore as much. We wouldn't have had Strangle Gank Vale, because back when like the titles came out, I'm almost certain they came out before Battlegrounds, and I think that's why it got so bad. And then they put Battlegrounds in, and then the majority of the griefers, there was still griefing, but it wasn't as bad when the Battlegrounds came out, because that was the fastest way to gain honor.
Zulace, that's actually a very good point too. They could have Battlegrounds at launch, but not have the honor system, and then it's just for fun. It's like dueling. But you're not forced to do it. So because the thing is, there's some people who only want to play vanilla for the PvP. And if they rush to 60 and they're like, I don't want to get my BIS, like screw that. I just want to queue, right? And they can't because they I don't know how long it took for Battlegrounds to come out, but it was it was months. And it's not going to take you months to get to 60 if you're one of those players. So to give them something to do, that's a very good suggestion. I mean, again, it's not Blizz-like, but they're gonna have to decide what to do ultimately. And I wouldn't be opposed to that in terms of my own personal desires to have the Battlegrounds, but no honor gained from them. Thing is, once they finally do implement the honor system, do Battlegrounds grant honor right off the bat, or are they going to phase that in later? Because, as Lhok said, that will deter from any world PvP happening. One of the main reasons why Taran Mill versus South Shore was such a big thing is because of everywhere in the game, that was one of the only zones where Horde and Alliance would interact while having a short graveyard run. Basically, the towns were so close together that if you died, you could respawn really quick. And that's what made the battle so cohesive, and people would just build up, and that was a big contributing factor, because people would go there with the intent of farming out their honor. So if there's no motivation there to farm honor, and that's exactly what we saw back in vanilla, that world PvP just kind of died out. Like, I mean, not completely, but it tapered.
It did. The thing is, like, even if there was like no honor involved, like I'd still be wanting to go out in the world and just being a dirty person and just hopefully some kid like Rees. I'm one of those. I love fighting people out in the real world, and I mean maybe in the real world, I mean in the game, but I don't know, it's just fun. I enjoy PvP. I'm probably going to be doing it quite a bit in the classic launch, so.
Everyone's going to have their own preferences. And I personally, I don't want them to cater just to my preferences. I want them to make a game that appeals to the masses. That's what I want. I want all the people who want classic, the most of them to be happy. That's what I want. So, you know, Blizzard's going to do their research. They're going to do their polling. They're going to figure out what we want. And I defer to that, right? But in terms of my own opinion, I would not want Battlegrounds to be out at launch, and I would not want the honor system to be out at launch. I mean, that shouldn't be a surprise to you guys. I'm kind of a purist. Me and Lhok, we want the pretty much, we wanted the original cycle to be reproduced identically. It's not. It doesn't look like it's going to be, but I would like to see no honor, no Battlegrounds. Honors implemented. Period of world PvP. Everyone's, you know, racing to try and get as much honor as they can, and then Battlegrounds come out. That would be my ideal, just like it was.
Okay, I'm gonna continue on here. They say once we had our starting point, we began taking stock of what we had in the source code and what we could make available, which included restoring the original development database from archival backups. After stitching various key pieces together, we had a locally rebuilt version of patch 1.12 running internally. The team could create characters and do basic questing and leveling and dying, which we did many times for testing purposes, obviously. Our initial runs exposed a few expected issues. The game sometimes crashed, didn't recognize our modern video cards, and was incompatible with our current login system. That first pass also couldn't support any of our modern security and anti-cheating capabilities. Clearly, we had a lot of work to do to make WoW Classic live up to the Blizzard standard of quality and deliver the experience players want. Now, it was my experience that WoW crashed a lot back in vanilla. It used to crash so much that if you ever went into your account at the back end, often Blizzard would give you extra days, like 1 day, 2 days added onto your game time because the game kept getting taken down for fixes. So good job, guys. You did actually manage to recreate the initial Blizz-like classic experience.
Right, Lord.
That's true. Now, something I wanted to ask you guys about this. When you read this, I mean, not at first, but upon really scrutinizing it, when do you think they came out with this this first prototype? I kind of want to hear both of your opinions.
This prototype has been around for a hot minute.
I thought so too. Like when I read that, honestly, I was what first came to my mind was when they met with Nostalrius and whatever came of that, when they finally addressed the issue of legacy service for the first time ever at BlizzCon. This wasn't when they announced it. This was like, you know, much before that. I think personally that it would have made sense as a company to, rather than simply rejecting the idea outright and telling all the fans that it was impossible without having even tried it, they probably did try it. That's what I think. I firmly believe that this first prototype is very you know, has been around for a long time, and it wasn't until they figured out how the second prototype was going to work that they were prepared to give us any hopes of seeing Classic. That's my take on it. What do you think, Lhok?
To be honest, I don't really know. To me, it just sounds like they sort of like cobbled something together as quickly as they could just to sort of test it out, and then just sort of went, oh yeah, it crashes, it does this, okay. What can we sort of do? So they probably did talk to the NOS team, but yeah, as far as I sort of like read from that, I didn't really take too much away from it.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because a lot of people who have reviewed this article, a lot of content creators, I tend to be hearing people who are making the assumption this is the work, this is the progress they've made since BlizzCon, since the announcement. And I think that's a massive assumption. I really think that if I had to guess, I would guess that they already had the second prototype without the databases fixed before they even announced it at BlizzCon. Because why would you announce a game you didn't even know if you could make work? That was kind of what I'm thinking.
I totally agree with you. I think it's been a process in the minute, especially with I can't even pronounce it, Nostralis going on and whatnot. I think the whole debacle of that, I think they were seeing what can we do with this and constantly playing with it and switching things up and figuring out what's going to, because if you're going to announce something like that at BlizzCon and not have something at least to kind of go off and base off of to even slightly talk about, I think it is asinine. Especially with Blizzard as a company.
So if it is true that they only have 2 prototypes, I would assume that the second prototype works, that there was no need to make a third. We're probably going to be sticking with the second, and I think the fact that they've chosen to release this water cooler at this point shows that they're very confident in that where they are at that stage.
"100% agree with you."
Is there anything else you guys wanted to point out about that part of the article? Of course, there's the fact that 1.12 Foundation, buzzwords, freak out, panic.
Right? Yay, Drums of War!
I feel like a lot of people jumped to conclusions on that one. The first day this came out, I was hearing a lot of 1.12 talents confirmed, which it really isn't.
Well, one thing, going back to the Battlegrounds thing, because my life revolved a lot around PvP. Drums of War, so 1.12 was also like when Crossrealm Battlegrounds came in. I also kind of hope that doesn't happen.
Oh god, well, we can talk about that. If I'm being honest, I think Blizzard is going to try their damnedest to prevent the need for that. I think they're going to try their hardest to find a workaround because they know the desire for that. But I wanted to mention Gintoki saying there in the chat, they only finished working on developing that or getting that classic team together recently. Like we heard, I think it was around January or February, they posted those job ads looking for somebody to work on the classic project. And then we heard supposedly they finalized the team, I don't know, at the end of spring, which is kind of, you know, recently. Now, if I had to guess, you know, just going off of my own assumptions here, I personally do think that they had that second prototype before BlizzCon, and I personally think that they hired those people because they already had a job for them. You know, like what they're talking about in this article about all this database work, the grunt work of translating the old data into a new format. I think that's what those people may have been hired on for. But the actual prototype worked. It's just you know, in terms of tweaking the numbers and inputting the numbers correctly, like that isn't really a challenge. That's just work. Like I don't think that they were concerned whether that would actually be physically possible. I think they knew it would work. They just have to plug the numbers in. I don't know if you agree with that. You're welcome to to disagree. I'm just guessing here, like, and I feel like I kind of have a fringe opinion because most people that I've heard talk about this were incredibly shocked that they had a classic water cooler, incredibly shocked that they're this far into the project, and I was not. I don't know. Um, but I don't know. I don't know what you guys think.
I was expecting to see a little bit more out of this project. I'm thrilled that we finally got a water cooler on this, just to give just a little insight of what their mindset is at and possibly going forward. But I was kind of hoping to see like what's your art direction on this. I mean, because I'm a huge like I'm big on the art. I'm big on the art direction. Like that's my life. Is I do freelance art for video games and all that. So I'm always looking for that art. Where are you going with this? Are you staying with the original art style? Are you tuning it to current retail WoW? I want to see what they're what they're going for, what their love, what their passions for it, and is where they want to go with it. Because I mean, art is everything. It tells a story and whatnot. Even with the writing, like that's all in an art form. So I'm really want to see what they go in an art direction, and I'm really hoping to see that.
Vaski, I don't know if you saw. I don't know if you guys heard about this. There's a lot of speculation back in March or February. I don't remember when the anniversary was, but there was it might even have been December. Was it December for the anniversary of WoW releasing on EU? In any case, they posted a tweet with some GIFs, like just a GIF of the starter zones from back in vanilla, and you could tell based on where certain things were placed that it wasn't Kata. It was obviously like vanilla, and they had footage, so that got a lot of people hyped and thinking even back then that they had some semblance of a working copy to make those gifs. And I'm pretty sure people were also commenting that there were some slight differences in the graphics. I think you might have mentioned Lhok, like maybe there was additional shadows or I don't remember, but was that back in December, you guys?
I think that was back in December, and I vaguely remember it. Um, that one is one that like went straight over my head, to be honest with you.
Is this the change from the shadows being just like a circle blob under your feet to actually like being a closer shadow to your character, or?
I think it might have been something like that. I think it might have also been the shadow, like the way that the lighting worked with the braziers and the torches and stuff appeared different, more Legion like.
Huh. I don't really remember when that came in. I also remember when we got like the shadow changes, we got like a couple of like updated like world environment graphics. So like rainstorms look kind of like rainstorms, and they didn't rain inside. And that was the same for the dust storms. You could go inside, and the dust storm would still be going on inside. I know they were changed, but I don't really remember when that all happened.
Well, Vaski, I'm sure you're probably expecting them to put in the original weather effects. Like if we're talking about the artistic direction for classic, authentic classic servers, they have to do that, right?
I would assume so. I mean, we do have weather now, and you do have those the overlays for the sky. You do have these more dynamic things, but there was something about the weather back then that just I loved it. The atmosphere was incredible, and I feel like we don't get that as much as we want to these days. So it's me. I want this happy balance of old and new. Um, Going forward in an art direction, because let's be real here, people, the trees in vanilla were disgusting. Keeping on a serious note about trees, I couldn't stand the trees in vanilla. So yeah, that's one thing I would love to see out of anything change is trees.
What about the grass and the bush effects that would stop like people running through them?
Now let's have people get stuck in bushes.
Ah, you horrible, horrible person. I can't get through here. The grass is making me stop.
Hey, I personally, like I said before, you know, my mission statement, I want to make the masses happy. Hopefully that doesn't sacrifice my own happiness, right? So if we're gonna have updated trees and leaves and textures and things like that, as long as it's giving us graphic sliders. I mean, you know how usually in the graphics they have a drop down option that's like ultra, medium, low, right? They could have a they could have a like a I don't know 2004 setting where you select the 2004 setting and it puts everything like wherever to um, and that they intentionally leave those levels in so that if you are somebody who's the purist, a graphical purist, I guess you can say, and you don't want to touch it if it's updated and improved. And I'm not judging you. I hope that they give those people that option, but you can't complain if they give other people improved graphics. Like, I think they will.
And the thing, I think it's okay to have improved graphics, and if they don't, that's okay too. I will stare at ugly trees, and I'll still be content. That's totally fine. I'm just happy for the fact that this is coming to fruition, and it's going to be fun. I mean, yes, there is some little tiny things I would like to see in an art manner because I am an artistic person. So that's me being a little like art little snob. But the implications of doing an engine like that to have a slide off to go right from original and then slide to like newer is a big process. Like I know you can get it now where it dumbs down the graphics, but that's staying within the same relative thing. That would be a huge undertaking to be able to do that for an artist to go and make a literally like a clean swipe across the board to be able to do something so drastic like that.
You're right. I didn't really think about that, but I wouldn't expect them to have a clean swipe. But I think you guys might have seen it where they'll have a sliding bar, but you can only like take it from this extreme to like the middle, and then take it to the end, like. Or like I said, maybe they don't have a full slider. Maybe the slider is just for based on modern day computers and modern day computer capacity, similar to Legion or BFA. And then maybe that additional like 2004 setting will override that stuff and will just take you to the past. Does that make it more feasible if they just have the crappy graphics and then like some settings for the some variations for the modern ones? Like, is that possible?
That's possible. Is like that's where I was recommending like very minimal things to be updated, so like you can still have that clearly vanilla feel without actually completely changing how the engine flows and whatnot and how things are placed and stylizing, etc. You can still have that feel without taking away from the actual experience, because I mean there's quirkiness from the original overlays and everything in design. So it's a here and there where I'm like I can bounce either or and be happy with it, but I would like to see how they go with the art direction of how they're going to balance that.
I personally don't care what the graphics look like. I'm opposite of you, Vaski. Like, they could give me anything, and as long as I can play the game, that's what's important to me is the gameplay. But at the same time, I do think that there's value in giving people modern graphics because some people will be turned off and won't even play the game because of the graphics. And Blizzard is trying to sell this game to people. So they obviously don't want to deter those people who are graphical snobs. They want them to still buy their game and to still sub. So I think there is value in them offering higher graphics, but it's also doing us a disservice to not offer the lower graphics. I think that there's also just maybe not just as many people, but there are enough people out there that would refuse to play the modern graphics too. So I honestly think they need to do both. Do you have an opinion on the graphics, Lhok, or are you kind of like, eh?
No, not really. Although I do kind of hope that they don't touch the shadow front in Orgrimmar, there's like a tree and a piece of grass in Orgrimmar, in the original Orgrimmar, that when you stand on them, they turn you like that black color and your eyes glow red.
Oh yeah.
Either red or yellow. Yeah. And there was always like a big group of people surrounding them trying to get like screenshots of themselves, and then you'd have like 50 other people standing on top of them trying to get the same effect.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So, I mean, yeah, I'm happy either or what they do for graphics. It's just that, like, on an artistic sense, like, still keeping that vanilla feel. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a graphic update. It can just be like the overlays and being able to do just the textures and stuff like that. They can do just to add vibrancy in some areas. So, I mean, it's just you guys like are totally don't care about the art. Totally understand it. I think that's great because you guys do pay attention to gameplay. I do too as well, but there's something where I love seeing the art direction that they take in a game too that just makes my heart go flutter.
No, that's fair enough. As for having a 1.12 foundation, though, obviously, from my understanding at least, I thought that that would give them the option to go either way. That they, if they're having a modern engine and modern client, that they would have full reign to give us updated graphics or also options in that regard. So, you know, there are, of course, benefits to them doing it this way and not going with the first prototype. Honestly, the way they say 1.12 Foundation simply because it's the most complete version of the game, I've seen some people take that way out of proportion and think that I saw this one person compare it to oh, well, obviously the last patch of Legion is the most complete version of Legion because all the raids are out and all the content's out and blah, blah. Well, that's not really the point here. Like, when they're saying a 1.12 foundation, I think what they're trying to say is if they're starting at 8.0 and they're taking out patches and they're taking out content, all the way back to vanilla, the first patch they're going to run into in that reverse chronological order is 1.12. That's right. That's kind of the newest vanilla patch, and it also has all of the different data in it that ever became available throughout Classic. So to me, it makes sense to start from that point, and then once you get all of that working and you have all the data and all of the databases set up for 1.12, that's what you'd want to do first as a first step. And then the next step would be to actually figure out the patch progression and how the game is actually going to look in terms of versions. But I don't think they've even decided anything yet in terms of versions. I think they're just trying to say that our prototype needs to work on 1.12. And that's kind of the first priority. Like, that just makes sense. What do you...
I agree. I think it's more of a bare bones. Like they're using that as a template of what to do and branch out from there.
Yeah, they basically said, if anything is different between their first prototype and second prototype, they still have the first prototype. And the point of this is that they're going to be comparing the two and systematically logging any discrepancies that they see. And I'm sure a big part of that is going to be in the alpha and the beta when they're asking for people to report things that aren't Blizz-like or that aren't what they're expecting. And systematically, basically, like ultimately, if I'm playing the beta and I put in a bug report and I say, oh, this item just dropped, and it's using the itemization from the end game, and it shouldn't have this itemization. If we're testing the start of the game right now, this should be less strength, like, whatever it may be. And I put in that ticket. The people who are reviewing those tickets, how they're going to decide if I'm right or if they're right, they're going to go and consult that 1.12 broken, like, crashing, harangued together prototype 1, from my understanding, and they're going to see how it was in that data and make sure that it's matching whatever they created with this prototype 2. Is that kind of your guys' understanding of that?
Definitely.
I hope not. I kind of hope they're not going to like match anything to like the first prototype. I would kind of hope that they were going to sit down and like actually like have a look at like everything before they just go, oh yeah, our first prototype in 1.12, yeah, totally, that's the one that we want to like cross reference.
The thing is, though, just because they have like this prototype of what they're going into, I have a feeling that I think it's going to be a whole slew of prototypes. We're really going to get into unfathomable amounts of what they want to before they come to a conclusion, especially if they really do actually listen to the community and these people that had a significant heartfelt connection to vanilla and really reading out and connecting with the community, because that's the biggest thing too, is that vanilla was such a massive outpouring of community with people. Yes, let it be toxic at some points, but there was a lot of good. I mean, everybody knew everybody on my realm that I played on. So I mean, that's a huge thing too, is it's building that community back up again as well for that process.
Wouldn't it be crazy if you get into the beta and the people who were selected in the beta, the first people who got pulled in are all people who actually had their account back then, and because of this, you're seeing all these familiar faces from back in the day just from the sheer fact that other people weren't given keys at the start. Like, that'd be that'd be pretty cool.
I would love that, because my guild that I'm still currently in retail WoW is all people I played with in vanilla. It is literally a family. I have like 10 different godchildren from that guild. So it's like, it's been a giant family since the beginning. So it's like, I'm really hoping to bring that back, because like, I mean, we still are a family, but we all crave vanilla. We all love vanilla. So that's this giant hope to be able to go back to that.
I could give or take some of the people I had in my server. I think if I saw a shaman by the name of Boons, I'd be fearful for my loot, because that guy just seemed to get everything. Like, just he was hacks and rolls or something. Because
oh Lord,
Are we name dropping now? I remember that the main ninja of my server happened to also control the auction house. And his name was J.R. Devious, or Junior Devious, or something. And,
oh my gosh.
yeah, it was the worst.
oh, Boons was an okay guy, but he just seemed to get everything. Like, I'm just like, man, can I have that, please? And he's like, yeah, sure, buddy. But yeah, like,
Dang.
Now, we did get a question here. Do we expect that they're going to progress into Burning Crusade? I think that if Classic is well received and it makes them money, which 90% sure that it will, then yes, it only makes sense that they would come out with BC servers. I would really hope that they don't force progression vanilla into BC. I hope that they release independent servers and that you have to start from level 1. Yeah, maybe it's not Burning Crusade like, but it doesn't matter. You lose all your progression from level 60 anyway, like in terms of gear. I wouldn't want to see them force progression. If they are going to do it that way, then there has to be certain servers that are taken aside and that are that it's clear that they're going to be moving into all the way into BC. And that sounds pretty complicated to me in terms of like everyone on that server understanding what that means. I don't know if you guys saw that that developer Q&A video, YouTube video done by Blizzard Entertainment, the one where they first actually said these BFA Q&As are not going to be addressing Classic WoW. We know vanilla means vanilla. That's what Ian Hazacostas said, right? In the back on the wall there, he had him and Lore, they had all these expansion posters up, and it was only up to Mists, if you guys remember that. And some people read a bit into that. I don't know how speculative you are, how cynical you are, but some people were thinking, wow, what if that's a hint? Like, what if they are going to make legacy servers for other X packs down the road?
Yeah, see, I wouldn't be opposed if like someone went from like vanilla and wanted to like transfer over to like the BC. Like if they actually did want to do the progression again, I wouldn't be opposed to them like being able to like shift over, but they wouldn't be able to shift their character back if you catch my drift. Like you wouldn't be able to go back from BC or Wrath or wherever you went up to. You wouldn't be able to go back to vanilla. You'd have to roll again a level 1 character on the vanilla server in order to like do that.
The problem I can see them running into with that is people will be forced to get all like a bunch of stuff done on the vanilla character with the goal just of being optimal in BC in mind. Like some people only want to play BC, they don't want to play vanilla, and then in order to get that head start to have all your reputations at exalted already in BC, you're going to have to play vanilla and then transfer your character over, and that could also impact the population of that vanilla server and its longevity after BC is out. Because if a bunch of people decide, well, to be honest, I would leave my character on this realm, but since I can't make a copy of him, since I have to like legitimately move him over, if that's how it works, then you're losing population because those people feel forced to do that to stay competitive in the BC environment.
The argument could be made that if they really wanted to play BC, then they're more likely never to go back to the vanilla server in the first place. So,
That's true.
True. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about moving on to the other expansions because I don't want to relive Cataclysm. I don't want to relive MOP. Maybe for the aesthetics, the art was great. That's about it. I didn't thoroughly enjoy that expansion. I think it would be like maybe up to Wrath, but other than that, like Vanilla and Burning Crusade.
I agree. I think they should definitely do vanilla in BC. Wrath is kind of like, they'll probably do it. I don't see them doing Kata and Mop. I mean, if they did, that's not a bad thing. I mean, great, but are they really going to have enough incentives to do it? I guess we'll see. So where did we leave off on reading here? Lhok, you finished the part about the first prototype, right?
correct.
Okay, so we touched a bit on the second prototype, so let me just kind of read what it says and we'll kind of get back on track. So, speaking of engineering, World of Warcraft is a very data-driven game, which means the basic code is flexible and the specific way it behaves is controlled by information contained in databases. Things like quests, monsters, items, and the rules for how these all interact are defined by designers and artists in data. I feel like a lot of people skim over that even in itself, and the entire reason why they're driving home how the game works and the importance of this data, like this is super important to me. This was one of the biggest things for me in the entire article. And I don't think enough people are acknowledging how amazing this is, at least for players from original vanilla, because when the original private servers started coming out, even when Nostalrius started being developed, those private servers did not have access to all of the numerical data in these databases. A lot of it they were able to get from logs on the intranet, from Thoughtbot, from various sources. They could get some information. I would say they potentially had the majority of the numerical data pretty correct. But they didn't have just, sitting on their hard drive over here all the numerical data to play with. They had to find it. They had to make some guesses, educated guesses, but as you might be aware, it's pretty well known that on private servers, even the best private servers, the drop rates are skewed, the resistance numerical data is skewed, how all those coefficients work, because they just simply didn't have those numbers. And the fact that Blizzard comes out in this article and they're legitimately saying they dug up those numbers, like they have that information, and we never had that before. Like, that's mind-blowing to me. I was really concerned that Blizzard would be balancing vanilla, and I didn't want that because, of course, a lot of people who want to return to vanilla don't like how the game's balanced now. So why would we want Blizzard to be balancing our vanilla? That was kind of a big discussion that was being had, and the fact that if they have all the numerical data, they don't need to balance anything. They could opt to simply go with the data that's there. I don't know if that impacted you guys as much, but like I was like, "Oh my god, you have the data?"
If data was involved, I was like, whew.
If they're going off of that data, this could be the best classic experience we've ever had as far as I'm concerned. We're not going to have scuffed resistances and scuffed drop rates and loot tables and anything that could potentially be incorrect on private servers. I'm sure it's probably a lot more than the average person would expect, and we're probably going to get a much more realistic experience, if not in the patch cycle, at least in terms of the numerical data. I think that's going to be pretty much based off of what they managed to dig up, so I was really happy about that.
I'll agree with you on that too. I was really happy as well. Like, I mean, can't get much better than that.
So I'll kind of continue to read here. So we asked ourselves, would it still be possible to deliver an authentic classic experience if we took our modern code with all its back-end improvements and changes and used it to process the patch 1.12 game data? While that might seem counterintuitive, this would inherently include classic systems like skill ranks, old quests and terrain, talents, and so on, while later features like transmog and achievements would effectively not exist because they were not entirely because they were entirely absent from the data. After weeks of R&D, experimentation, and prototyping, we were confident we could deliver the classic WoW content and gameplay without sacrificing the literally millions of hours put into back-end development over the past 13 years. We kind of touched on that at the start of the stream already. I'm completely in favor of this. If they had a bunch of spaghetti code and they've worked it all out at this point, I think it only makes sense, to do it this way. I think this makes a lot of sense, just plugging in the data sets from vanilla. They go into the different types of data they have in terms of files, Lua scripts, table data, right? And if they're just going to plug that in, my only concern is that the modern code is not operating one-to-one to how the vanilla code operated. There have been some changes, like in terms of spell queuing, for example. So I'd be interested to see how they're going to be addressing that, if at all, or if we're just going to get the modern version of the code.
I think, in all honesty, I think we're definitely going to be getting modern code for this. Definitely to update into what's going in, and even like we were talking on this conversation too before in terrain, updated terrain. Great, that's no problem. I'm okay with that. We kind of went over that where I hated trees, so I glossing over that again. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I can see how some purists would probably advocate for them to try and simulate the old code in the new code, like to try to change the spell queuing and try and simulate what it was before or something. I don't see why anyone would want that, but I'm sure someone out there wants that. It was just worse before, if I'm being honest. If anyone's not familiar with how it worked, if you were spamming a button on your keyboard, then it would lock you in to that spell in a certain way. So you might have seen where your spell will light up and it won't actually cast, or you'll be like spamming Frostbolt and all of a sudden, oh god, like you have to run away, you got a Frost Nova, and because you spam Frostbolt too much, it's not going to register your Frost Nova and it's just going to try and cast Frostbolt again. And that doesn't happen anymore. They fixed that in Cataclysm. Fixed. Because apparently there were like exploits associated with it or something. But now they just overhauled how spell queuing works. And I don't see why anyone would want to return to the old broken one, if I'm being honest. What do you think, Lhok? Because I think you're the most purist here. Like, do you think there's any argument for trying to simulate like the more broken version, or do you think like all the changes in terms of the code are probably for the best?
Yes and no. I mean, the horrible person inside me kind of wishes that they would go back to the original sort of like of classic
I knew you'd say
experience.
this.
So they can like be frustrated and never want to play a mage ever again. um, and then the other side of me is just like I can see that the improvements and stuff like that have helped out like casters especially a great deal. But I played a hunter and like a resto druid. Resto druids don't worry about it, but hunters back in like classic just chewed mages up and spat them back out. And it was because of the spell queuing. It was the same for warlocks, like anyone that was sort of like a caster. Sometimes holy paladins, you could lock them down really well while they were trying to spam heals on themselves. So yeah, like, I'm mixed. I think, and I think the reason why I'm mixed is because I'm a bit of a horrible person when it comes to PvP.
That's a fair response.
Hey,
That's
as
a
long
fair
as you
answer.
PvP with me, man, we're all good. We're kosher.
As long as I'm on your side.
All right.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what they do. I don't think anyone will be terribly upset and decide not to play because of spell queuing. But there are other things that they did change in the code as well, right? For example, if you have certain spell reticle like casting things where you click on heroic leap and it puts this big circle down where you're gonna leap to. I don't have information on the changes and tweaks they've made to combat like to reticles over the years, but I can tell that they've been changed. It obviously works way better now than it used to. I mean, you guys might have heard, but in terms of casting Rain of Fire, casting down your blizzard, it was pretty broken back in vanilla compared to now, and it's probably for the best that we're going with the modern one. Otherwise, people are going to be glitching all over the place. That's part of the reason why there were so many glitches. And Lhok is there smiling like, bring on the glitches.
They're some of the best fun.
They were a lot of fun. I will admit. Like as soon as you found it, like I mean, technically an exploit in some things, like it was kind of fun to play the game around it. And then, like, but the thing is, like, it only like stayed fun for like a moment for me, and then I was like, okay, now I'm just like, this is mean. Like like I'm just like
How did you get up there, Lhok? Oh, I disengaged up here.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
I don't know. I'm sure Blizzard will make the right decision. I'll defer to their decision on that. Okay, so briefly, it goes into what these types of data are. So, what does it take to recreate an authentic classic experience with modern engineering? Let's categorize the different types of game data. I really don't think there's anything super important here, but it's good for you to understand. They got the table data, so that's all the numerical data that private servers previously didn't have access to in full. Some of those numbers they just had to suck out of their thumb, and Blizzard apparently has dug up the old data and can match it one-to-one if they so choose. So that's great. The file data is basically the 3D models. Those were never removed from the game. Vaski and I use Model Viewer all the time when we're making thumbnails and things. And if you go in there, they have the craziest models that never even made it into the game in some cases.
Yeah, it makes me so happy. I'm just like, ooh.
So they have everything still. That was never a situation where they had to go dig it up. As crazy as it sounds, when you log into BFA, it's the reason why your game is so processor heavy and why it's such a big game file is because it still like runs all of those models off of your system, right, Vaski?
Right.
That it's actually like localized and it's not actually streaming those graphical models, and so for that reason that's not going to be an issue. It literally still has everything, so good to go in that. And then the Lewis scripts, I am not a techie person, so I'm sure there's a lot of implications for this that go over my head. I don't really have much to comment on that, but from what I did take away is probably the API for add-ons and mods and things is going to be totally different, and that in itself has massive implications. What is your guys' stance on add-ons and mods in Classic WoW?
I mean, I had mods and add-ons, be it very minimal. Like, I was a very minimal player. I figured out what was the best way to constantly use macros, what's going to maximize my output, etc., and so forth. I mean, we all had that, but when it comes to this, when I'm seeing Lewis scripts, all I see is that the possibilities of real easy things like Voodoo and LVUI coming in. I mean, that's fine. I get it. But that's really going to completely open a doorway to things that I don't really care for. Because there's some people that are still playing in retail WoW right now that are using the traditional UI. I think that's great. But I think Lhok might agree with me on this. Like, the massive implications of being able to use add-ons of what we have today is going to be game changing. That's literally going to alter gameplay.
So
in my opinion.
I just want to cut in here. There's two sides to this coin because I'm sure Lhok clearly has something really important to say. She's like cracking up, but I just want to say, like, yes, I know for a fact that modern add-ons are much more sophisticated, and that sophistication cannot be obtained using the old API. That is absolutely true. However, conversely, Blizzard has put a lot more limitations on the current API and what add-ons are allowed and what aren't, versus back in Classic, they really did not have reins on that at all. And in fact, on private servers a lot of the time, it seems that they have all sorts of cheat problems and people using crazy add-ons that work with the old API that if you tried to make that kind of add-on in WoW today would be against the terms of service. It wouldn't be allowed. So, you know, although the add-ons are way more powerful now, they are also limited and more controlled. But what did you have to say about it, Lhok?
I think that players who play with the original UI are amazing, and I do that. How dare you, Vaski?
What? Wait, do you use add-ons or do you go for the original?
I play with the base UI.
Wait, do you really? I was about to say, are you an add-on person? I think the base UI is actually pretty great. Like, if you really actually delve, it's actually a pretty flawless system that they've matched up. I've always been comfortable with it. In retail WoW, LVUI was given to me and I got to make things, and now I have a sexy map that has all the pretty little totems on it, and I'm like, all right, it's so pretty. Like, because
hey, Vaski, I think you need to unbind your S key. You're backpedaling there. But yes, I play with the original UI. I don't really run a lot of add-ons. Currently in Retail WoW, I have Details and DBM, and that's it. In Vanilla, I didn't run any real add-ons unless I was absolutely required to by my guild for raiding, and even then I did it under sufferance. I remember the day our guild decided that they were going to have the wardrobe add-on, which synced up with a website which people could. It was basically the prototype for the armory, and I didn't do it out of protest because I didn't want people to see what I was running and all that sort of stuff. Because just for whatever reason, I just did not want to have any more add-ons than I require. So I'm still a very, very base, no add-ons kind of person. Skitters, the person who I've been playing WoW with for the last 14 years, is very add-on heavy. They don't play with the base UI. They never really have. So we sit in both camps. I can see why people would want to change things, but from where I'm sitting, the base UI was absolutely fine. Learn to play.
Yeah. I'm gonna probably be like that for the classic. Is just doing the base UI. I don't see the need to have anything that's similar to LVUI, etc. Like there's no need for it. In retail WoW, yeah, I do because I'm lazy and I like pretty things. In classic, it's more about grit and just getting shit done.
Some people can't live without a bag add-on. Like, I know people who legit, they cannot play if they have to have all these 6 different bags. They need to have a 1 mega bag. I've never been a mega bag person, but there's people who are like, no, I'm not dealing with these, like, all these different, like, 16 slots, no. It's a kind of a weird deal breaker, but I don't really care that much about add-ons, if I'm being real. I would be happy if Blizzard said no add-ons. I'd be happy if Blizzard said any add-ons you want. I don't care. Like, the add-ons other people use is up to them. I never feel forced to use add-ons. If my guild is requiring me to use add-ons that I don't want to use, then I'll just join another guild.
Wow. All right.
I'll make a
Nice.
guild. Like, that's stupid. If somebody's playing just fine without the add-ons, you don't need to require deadly boss mods. If somebody knows the fight, they could play better than some, like, no, I don't want to get into that argument. That's stupid.
I mean, we could get into this argument because I've done mythic rating for this current retail WoW.
But it's not
and
mythic rating.
it really isn't. Like it's boring to me, and I don't have any boss mods, and my guild was like, what? Like they were like like what is going on? What is happening? And they wanted me to download it, and I just meh. Is it really necessary? No.
If somebody's gonna challenge me and they're like, no, you can't group with us if you don't have that add-on, then like they need to either be open to just judging me for my abilities with whether I have the add-on or not, or I won't join that group. That's why we're gonna be warriors, right, Vaski? We make the rules.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's what I mainly did in vanilla was a warrior and then shaman. Like, and I'm gonna do the same exact thing because that's what I'm comfortable with. And I am a stubborn person, and I am a Taurus, so that's how it's gonna go. It's just how it is.
We'll see if I regret that, and I cave and I download an add-on, but it doesn't matter. If they're requiring like 2 add-ons, I'm in Lhok's ballpark here. Like, for retail, I'll play around with add-ons. There's none that I require. It's usually not a stable list that I always have. I just kind of like play with them, just change it up when I'm bored. But on vanilla, I don't want add-ons. Like, it's vanilla. It's like sacred. I don't want to. I used add-ons back in the day, sure, but I don't think I'm gonna feel inclined to use add-ons even if they're there.
And that's a good thing because everybody has a different play style. I might get a few add-ons because I'm obviously healing and I do want some ease of comforts. But, it's here nor there. Everybody has their different little thing that they like to do, and that's cool.
Okay. Let's try and finish up the article. So, next they kind of just go into how their database has changed. I would say that's a great thing to go look at. I don't think there's any big take-homes about that. It's just kind of for your own interest. It's not going to impact Classic at the end of the day, whether you understand that or not. But they're finishing up that database section. They're saying there's much less wasted space, and spells are no longer limited to 3 effects with the new database formats. Before we can load any database data, we need to transform the old data layout into the new one. This is not limited to spells. Almost every game system, including items, creatures, player characters, spawning, AI, and more, has had its database's layout altered over the years. So basically, they're just trying to say that one of the big hurdles they've had to overcome is that even if they use a modern system, if they're using the modern code doesn't read the old databases. They have to interpret the old databases into a modern format so the code will interact with it properly. And that's been probably a very tedious task of manually going in and reformatting everything. But I'm sure you guys can grasp the idea of reformatting tables. And I'm sure that that sounds like grunt work, but it's not like some massive technical challenge that they had to overcome. That's just like taking some time, kind of thing. Is that kind of the same thing you guys got from that?
Exactly. It's just reading how it is and taking the effect of what's going to work from that. I mean, it's really basic. You have to do that with like remastering games all the time. It's the same thing with like Dark Souls Remaster. They had to do some things with that. They didn't have some of the coding that they had with that either. There's all kinds of things when it comes to remastering things like that. And that one I don't feel is going to be very difficult for them. That's something that's pretty general and easy to interpret and make something have a great effect and a positive positive look on it. So I'm pretty happy with it.
I feel like most people who've read this article and who's, talked about it, discussed it, everyone really had a different opinion on that. I feel most people that I heard speak were under the impression this was going to be some massive undertaking. And I get how massive it is. I get that, but it's not something that they're starting today. I feel like maybe they already are almost done that at this stage, because they're starting the article by saying we're finally at a stage where we're ready to report on our progress, we're ready to report on some of the issues we had and our resolutions. So maybe I'm optimistic in that regard, but I feel like what they hired those people for was to sort out that side of things, and at this point hopefully they're almost done with all of the database fixing, and I think that's why they ended the article there. That's why we got progress up to that point, because that's where they are, and we're going to see the next steps as they make progress past the databases.
Exactly. Now, I like the fact that they mentioned this too, that there's less wasted space and spells are no longer limited to 3 effects. That made me happy. I don't know if that made you guys happy.
Well, part of me wonders where this numerical data is stored. Is that something that's on their servers, or is that something that's part of our game files? Does that mean, because they're optimizing this, does that mean that the game files will be less than if we went with the big bulky tables? Like, if they had the new format back in the day, would the game have been small, like taking up less space? I don't know. I guess you guys can't answer that. You don't know if it's stored on our side or on their side.
It's more of like, because there was they're going to be able to compact it more, and there was a lot of wasted space actually in vanilla regarding for like data wise information and how things are going for databasing things. So you're going to get this more meatier, hearty form than something that has holes in it where you can reach into it, like how like space is like black and there's emptiness in between stars, kind of like something like that, and you're going to get like the whole sandwich instead.
So Skitters there is saying that the numerical data is stored on the servers, not on our computers. So
Right.
wouldn't impact the game file size. Now we got a question down there. DefCamp and Melder on TV. Have you heard the rumors that they might have a working classic beta at BlizzCon? I don't know how much faith I would put into that, but it would be awesome. I'm not sure. We've all heard of those rumors. I'm not sure what you guys think of them, but I think I have a different opinion than most people. Most content creators that I've seen have been heavy naysayers to that idea. They were mostly surprised that this announcement came out at all, and they didn't expect to hear much until BlizzCon. That seems to be the general discourse going around. I was of the absolute opposite opinion. As I said before, I think that they had the first prototype ages ago, like years ago. The second prototype probably came just a few months before BlizzCon, and I think they're probably now just finishing getting all those databases sorted out. If I had to make my own speculation right now, I would assume that as soon as those databases are finished, they're going to start testing the game, akin to whatever tests they ran on the first prototype. Whatever they did on the first prototype, their test scripts that they go in and try and fulfill to find out whether it's crashing, how buggy it is, whether it's a working prototype or not. I honestly think that's the next step. That of course would be amongst their team, but if that goes smoothly, I mean, why wouldn't they have some alpha, something to play at BlizzCon? That's quite a few months away. What do you guys think?
I think 100% there's going to be one. I mean, right now with the way that they are showing database and where they're heading towards with it, they're already showing something that has a start. Especially with where they're going for a bare bones of what their means are for going into Classic. So I would expect 100% a early testing and even an alpha for it then, because one, what are they going to announce at BlizzCon? That's like something that's meaty in between once BFA launches and possibly going into the next patch and announcing the next patch and raid content for it as well too, not being at BlizzCon. So you're going to get all that meatiness with Classic. I think that's really going to be a hitter and a showstopper for them, and I think that's really important, and I think it will happen.
Yeah, I actually hadn't heard it. I know I should keep up to date with it all, but I do struggle with keeping up to date with absolutely everything. But I hadn't heard it. I think it'd be pretty cool if they did do it. It certainly would gain more interest in the things that are happening in BlizzCon, from like all sort of areas of. I know BlizzCon gets a lot of interest anyway, but it would like further cement like the classic community within the fold of like Blizzard, and I think it'd just be a really cool idea. So I hope it does happen.
Definitely.
I think that whatever we get at BlizzCon is going to be a very limited, tailored down version. Just like how with BFA we only managed to play certain dungeons and certain zones and parts of zones really. It was a very specific scenario basically that we were allowed to enter into, and I think it'll be much the same. I think it would be nuts for them to launch us into anything else. I've heard some people say maybe there'll be dungeons available, but I can't see that because everyone will die. Nobody is gonna know their abilities. You start with, you just pick your specs, you put on some basic gear, and you try and play it. Like on the show floor at BlizzCon, that would showcase a really negative view of the game because nobody would be able to complete those dungeons unless they were stupidly easy, and then that is a bad view of the game. It just wouldn't work. In my mind, there's no way they're gonna have dungeons. But I could see them having like the starting zones or some of the starting zones to play.
I have a suggestion. So Blizz, if you're listening, can we start in the Barons chat in Barons and make everyone like have to find Mancrick's wife or perhaps like
You're disgusting.
get stolen silver.
Oh my god, the only quest available is for zebra hooves.
No.
It'll take your whole hour of playtime just to try and complete.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Nah, it's not. No. The more I think about it, bad idea.
Oh god. I'm like dying on the inside thinking about that.
I know, right? Okay, so Skitters is saying vanilla starting content makes me want to kill myself. If they only have starter zones at BlizzCon, that's really boring. If I'm being honest, like, sure, it's hype, it's classic. People who've never played classic before are going to get to make characters, what make their class. They're going to get to go in and see how hard it is. So there's that. But for the actual classic community who kind of has done that 5,000 mind-numbing times, that's not going to be the most exciting thing. But I'm sure we're happy to see anything. I honestly can't really expect anything else for a beta to play on the floor of BlizzCon.
I mean, I can't wait to go back to early vanilla Teldrassil and collect Falcons that took forever to find for whatever reason. Anybody else remember that?
The spider cave. Just send everyone into the spider cave.
No. I'm gonna tell you right now, going to BlizzCon and being like that, I'm gonna be like, meme of the year. Because who really wants to do like starting zone? I mean, it would be cool, but oof.
I'm having like a terrible thought. Well, that's a controversial thing to say. Not terrible. I'm being cautiously optimistic that it might not be a terrible thought, but I'm very concerned if they show off starting zones at BlizzCon. Is there a chance that they try and showcase their sharding technology and how they're going to support the launch of Classic and how I don't know, I'm not saying cross server, but I would not be surprised in the slightest if starting zones are sharded, or maybe starting zones are only sharded in the first 72 hours of a server launch when everyone's logging in. It hurts to say it, but do you think they'll try that at BlizzCon?
Potentially. I'm still thinking about where we could send the people to test. We could test them in the Cobalt Cave in Elwyn Forest, or maybe even collecting kelp off the Murlocs at the Crystal Lake.
No.
The blue pearl. What are those? In Stranglethorn Vale, those
the blue pearls,
the blue clam pearl things.
What about Darkshire having to face what's his name padding around and
oh my god, that would be pretty funny.
For authenticity, he can get stuck in the road.
Yeah, oof, and then just cleave me from below, being like, "Gotcha, bitch." Good old days.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Skitters. Like, I personally, if just me trying to guess what Blizzard does, what Blizzard is thinking, what's going to work for Blizzard, I honestly anticipate them to have some kind of sharding within your own server, only within the starting zones, and potentially only when a server launches. But the problem is, you can't have some weirdo on Reddit say, "Hey guys, wouldn't it be funny if we like dox the game by just all on January 25th, we're just gonna all go and make characters on this one server and just flood the starting zone." I mean, we already have the running of the gnomes, which even in modern WoW, even in retail, it's an RP server, and yet they have to shard the running of the gnomes because they're not able to not shard that. And if any of you guys have done that event, it's broken. Like, people are disconnecting all over the place. You go into a next zone and like nothing spawns, like everybody despawns, and it's like you're in limbo. I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but if they can't even support it on current WoW, how are they going to support that at the launch of a server for Classic? Like, I'm honestly wondering if they're able to make that a smooth experience without implementing sharding, at least to some extent, in the starting zones.
Yeah. I'm thinking they're going to have to.
And I'm not talking about cross-realm. I'm just saying, like, you're gonna pick your poison. Do you want to have dynamic respawns and then so many people running around that you've got like 2 people camping each spawn location and you're just standing there waiting for the mobs to spawn? Because if you try and leave the starting zone and go kill some level 5 and level 6s on your level 1, you're not gonna get anywhere. Like you farm like a 10-man coalition to go and try and kill some level 5s. Like it's not, it doesn't make sense in my head that that would be feasible. They'd have to do some tomfoolery to have like instantly spawning things, and for the sheer amount of people that are going to be playing and the hype that's going to be around certain servers that that people will flock to.
Yeah, I could see it being a mess. And it's going to be a lot. I think it's going to be even more so than things like BFA launch. And I mean, like, Legion launch was good, but like, we're talking about like a vanilla launch and all these things. And I mean, they're going to have to upgrade and integrate how they need to, but it's doable. I think it's doable. I've got benefit of the doubt regarding that.
Oh my god, Lhok. You get you're at BlizzCon. You've never played classic WoW. You're so excited to finally see what all the hype is about. You log into this, that you decide to be a mage. It's giving you gear. You immediately spawn in. You've got the optimal spec. You don't even have to put in your talent build. It's got you all set up. You've got blues on, a full set of blues, and you're gonna do Jinta Allure with a 5-man group. People would just they would just die. Like, it would be funny.
Godspeed, ye adventurer.
Oh no.
Or maybe we should send them into Hearthglen.
No. Wow, Lhok, you're cynical.
You're so evil.
Yeah. Wow, Dark Horse.
I'm not evil, I'm funny.
Oh god.
Yeah, Def and Melderon, I totally agree. Like, anything with like Soda or Asmongold are gonna be just gonna be super far away from that.
But that's another thing, right? Do you really want it to be in the player's hands to organize an event in order to annoy somebody else? Like, just to have everyone flood to a server and mess up that server? I mean, we saw what happens with the Gate of Anchorage. I'm not saying that the new servers are going to be as delicate as those. They're going to be much more robust. But there's still going to be a point to how much they can handle. And even on RP servers today in BFA, RP servers are not sharded, but they have a limit. They have a capacity where if that capacity is reached, must be kind of similar to what Skitters is saying in the chat there, like in Guild Wars 2. If it comes to a point where there's load balancing issues, it shards. That's how it works. And if that's the thought process that Blizzard has used in order to preserve an RP community, I would be a bit concerned that I'm sure they'll tread very lightly. They will only use sharding if they need to and where it's necessary and as little as possible, I'm sure, but I'm not optimistic. I think we're going to have to live with some capacity of sharding at least in the starter zones.
Gonna agree with you on that for sure. 100%.
Yeah, I agree. Although, you know, it kind of takes the fun. I'm going to sound evil again. Damn it. It kind of takes the fun out of sitting there and camping like the Scorpion in the Trials of Valor. Sorry, the Trials of
Honor.
Oh god, yeah, that's it. I'm laughing too hard. Or Samuel Phelps, I think his name is, in Death Knell. So, yeah, so no one can progress.
Yep, you're the dark one.
I mean, that's a conversation we can have. How are they going to stop griefers like Lhok from... Just kidding. But really, do you guys think they're going to change their terms of service to match modern day WoW terms of service, or do you think they're going to try and model it after the vanilla terms of service?
I think current terms of service for sure, especially with what they've went through over the years. 100% current.
I think so too.
Yeah, same here. I will say though, if anyone is wanting to like know this, it's very very hard to out tag a druid with Moonfire. So good luck.
Yeah, but it's okay though, because Lhok is just one singular little druid, and you don't have to be afraid of her, because I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm thinking to myself, how could we, if we were a little guy trying to kill Samuel Phipps, how could we stop Lhok from tagging that with her Moonfire? And I'm like, I was gonna say like we could organize a witch hunt to get Lhok out of there, but she'd probably win.
I'd also be hard.
Troll preferably?
You see, she's trolling her own faction, though. That's the thing. You can't create an alliance on a server that you have a horde, right? So if you're a level 5 and you're trying to do your quest on horde in Tearsfall, and this other hordey is stopping you, you can't just switch over to your alliance and kill them, like on retail. You have to say, Miss Lhok, I am your biggest fan. Please allow me my kill. You are number 1.
What is happening?
Get good, scrub.
No, Lhok, this is when you say, that'll be 10 gold.
Not very many people have 10 gold back then. Wow.
You can only progress if you can out tag me. Okay, so you might think I'm being evil, but I'm honing their skills. Like, before they leave Death Knell, they need to know about the greater world out there. There will be druids out there who will grief them within their own faction, as well as the griefers who are not their own faction. I'm building them resilience. There you go.
You're weeding out the weak. They'll sub to classic WoW. They'll be so excited. They'll be so happy, Lhok. It'll be their first time playing, and you will ruin it for them, and they will unsub so fast.
The thing is, how many people do you think their goal is? I'm gonna tell you right now, I think Asthma Gold would be on a heyday. He'd be like, everybody's gonna die. I'm gonna ruin days. Like, let's be real here. I think we all kind of want to do that because, I mean, let's be real. Anybody that's played in vanilla got as a 14-year-old, because I was 14 when I started playing, and boy was the game just, I loved it. I mean, I got grief too. I got frustrated, but boy does it feel great to grief back just for that split little moment.
You guys, haven't you seen all those idealistic YouTube videos about how you need to preserve your reputation on your own server, and you have to you have to be a role model for the community if you want to be accepted? Haven't you seen all those videos, you guys?
They should get good, scrub.
Def, I actually used to multi-box in vanilla. I was an asshole. I'm not gonna do it this time though.
I am undecided as to whether or not I will be true to myself or not.
Be true to yourself, Lhok. Be true.
Alright, Samuel Phelps.
I'm seeing a pattern here. The one alliance player is not a griefer. What's up with that?
I know, that's pretty, accurate? Accurate? I don't know. I'm gonna tell you right now, all the alliance people that I ever knew on my server, everybody were little, I hate to say it, but they were little chubby bunnies, and they were like, I'm gonna sit in Ironforge and I'm gonna trade and I'm gonna figure out the auction house because, you know, yeah, that's my job. I'm sorry I had to say it. Like, all the people I knew on Alliance, and I'm teasing them right now, and if they end up watching this, they're gonna be like, Vaski, shame on you, but it's true. It's true.
I think I know why the Alliance players are like they are, because they get beaten the bejeebus out of by a Hogger in their starting zone. So if you can make it past Hogger, they know, or they work it out very quickly, that griefing can like push you back, because Hogger griefs them all.
Oh God. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Before Lhok reveals all of her cunning strats on how to terrorize poor innocent children, Vaski, did you want to read the last part of the article there?
Absolutely. Let's wrap this bad boy up. All right, guys. So looking ahead, all the work we're doing will ultimately allow us to recreate an authentic classic experience on a platform that is much more optimized and stable, helping us avoid latency and stability issues. Additional improvements will include modern anti-cheat slash boxing body detection. Locke's gonna love that one. Customer service and battle.net integration, and similar conveniences that do not affect the core gameplay experience. I don't buy that. We are looking forward to the challenges ahead and share your passion for the classic game. Every code check-in, data conversation, or conversion we make brings WoW Classic closer to providing the authentic experience you and we want. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
I'm just going to say here that I'm a bit on the fence about like the botting detection, right? Yes, I don't like bots in the game, but I really enjoy killing them. So if you can't bot, then I don't get my free kills.
Hey, if this means you can't go into the back of Warsong Gulch and just chill out of bounds with the flag because you'll get, you'll get flagged. I can't find a better way to say that. You'll get flagged for doing that. I think that's good because that was just busted.
Yes, I can see a lot of the anti-cheating, anti-botting stuff in Battlegrounds being like really good, but you'd be kidding yourself as to think that it's not going to still happen. I mean, they still haven't fixed the wall hack with holding the flag in Warsong Gulch, which has been there like from day one, pretty much.
They haven't fixed it, but
no.
They haven't fixed it, but they have, from my understanding, something that'll flag you if you do it, so that you can get banned if you do it too many times and get too many counts that you're abusing it.
I can detest that does not work.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's also the fence running outside of the horde base, being able to just walk over the fence at the front there and just jump down to the tunnel and run up there. They haven't fixed that either.
I still can jump over the Arathi Highlands fence. If you really want to be a butthole about that too, there's still ways to do it.
I mean, if we're talking about exploits, there's plenty of Battleground PvP exploits that are still in the game today that supposedly are reportable offenses that is never enforced. And they will be there in Vanilla too, regardless of this new and improved anti-cheating, right?
Oh yeah.
As you were mentioning about Warsong Gulch, you can jump that fence as a hunter. You can disengage through the tunnel, and you can actually be on top of the tunnel entrance, and you can actually go through the tunnel and wind up inside the tunnel. Like, it's so broken.
Yeah, if you disengage, if you jump through the fence and disengage from the top of the thing, you can fall down through the tunnel and like get the speed boost, and then run out.
So I mean, cheaters will be cheaters, but at least they're gonna make an effort. I'm not worried about that. Anti-botting, anti-cheating, that's like a non-issue. Everyone's kind of saying, yeah, whatever. Let's get on to the meat and potatoes. Latency and stability issues, that's where I start questioning about sharding and things. We'll see what they do, but that's where my mind is going. But customer service and BattleNet integration, that's kind of a big deal to me. I know people are getting over it. People were scared at first, and the more they think about it, they're like, no, we trust Blizzard. We know that they will do Battle.net right. Um, Basically, they're not saying that Battle.net is going to be available in the game. They've really not said much. I think they want to gauge our reaction. I think that's why they didn't say much. They want us to come out and say what we want, what would be a deal breaker, what we're expecting, and I think they'll play it off of that. So I would encourage you guys to voice your opinions on the matter. But if it was up to me, I'm fine with having the game on the Battle.net launcher. You click start, the game opens up. If it was up to me, I would not see any more Battle.net in the game. I want to have the old friends list. I want to be able to add people individually. I don't want to see my Battle.net friends in my classic friends list if it was up to me. But
Sounds good to me. I agree with you on that.
I have a feeling Lhok agrees too, being the purist she is.
Absolutely, I do.
So if they do that, then go ahead, put Battle.net integration in. Have your little, little store icon where you can go and you can buy like your Battle for Azeroth, like stuff that's connected to your Battle for Azeroth account. If they want that to be in the interface, fine, as long as it's not affecting Classic, as long as it's not anything on there that you're buying for Classic. If you want to go in and like renew your subscription or whatever and put some more money into your Battle.net wallet like fine, that doesn't bother me as long as there's nothing in the store that's affecting Classic in any way. Then we're Gucci. If they have the little ticket function and Battle.net comes up and the entire interface of that ticketing is not the old one, it's the Battle.net one, obviously they're not going to make a whole new customer service functionality to mirror the old. Obviously we're going to adjust to the new one. That's fine. But I don't want to be adding Battle.net friends from Classic without like literally whispering them and being like, hey, what's your battle tag? And then like minimizing the game or opening up my Battle.net launcher and adding them that way. I don't want it to be in my Classic, personally.
I 100% agree. That's one thing I will agree with you guys on because I've been off and on all night today. But yeah, definitely an integration, but not getting the full bells and whistles with it.
Now, where's the deal breaker for you guys? When would you be legit mad? Like for me, I think it goes without saying. Right-clicking on an opposite faction person and adding their battle tag just like that. Obviously, they cannot do that. There would be outrage.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I'm being honest with you guys, I have Vaski on my Battle.net. I have Lhok on my Battle.net. What if I want to roll on the opposing faction of them on the same server? Now we have an issue. Because I'm able to just look at my Battle.net friends and see what zone they're in and what tune they're on, what level that tune is. That's not fair.
That's perfect.
Right.
Lhok, you're killing me.
I would be, yes.
It's not funny. I refuse to laugh. My own
Hey, Lhok, if that ends up happening, me and you are gonna have a showdown. I'm gonna tell you right now, 2 PvP people. Oh, let's have fun.
I don't know. I don't want to see opposing faction people on my friends list in game at all. And if I'm being honest, I don't even want to be able to minimize the game, pull up my Battle.net, and look at my friends on Battle.net and see what character level and what zone they're in Classic. Because even if you're able to see that on the same faction as you, it's like I don't like the stalkerish ability that you just didn't have before. Like you can /who people, and that's that. Like /who is all you get. I don't want the Battle.net being like a OP /who.
Very true. I'll agree with that.
Vaski.
What?
You're gonna make Lhok sing again.
It's a great song.
Okay, I don't know if we covered the issue of BattleNet. You guys pretty much just agree with what I said.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like that would be the most perfect system I could ask for regarding that.
All right. Then we come to the sticky situation of similar conveniences. Personally, I think that's bait. If I want to speculate on what Blizzard's strategy is and what they're doing, I think this little thing at the end here about BattleNet and similar conveniences, I think they want us to voice our opinion. I think they want us to be abundantly clear about what we would allow and what we wouldn't, and I think that's why they put that like that. I don't think they had anything specific in mind. If they did, they would have told us. If they had made decisions on it. That's kind of how I'm feeling. So similar conveniences, like what could that mean? Is that simply the fact that I'm whispering Lhok and I shift click my gear and it makes that little link where you can click on it in the chat and it shows the gear? They didn't have that, right? Or that you can link your profession and then someone will click on it and it'll show everything, all the recipes you've learned. Is that the similar conveniences? There's so much room for varying levels of conveniences. It's just such a vague term. At this point, I kind of just take it to mean nothing. I don't think it should be a panic mode. I don't think it should be taken out of proportion. I think they're just trying to engage us and see what we think, honestly. And gauge how strong the negative reaction to trigger words like that is, and just so that we'll have the discussion and that we'll ultimately have to weed it down to each convenience, I guess you can say, that's part of the modern code, which was not in the old code. What do you think, Lhok?
Yeah, I don't really want them to like have pay for win stuff. I mean, I'm even on the fence about having heirlooms and stuff. Like, and the conveniences is part of like the BattleNet stuff. mm, I would prefer to have my classic as it possibly can. So I think I'm sort of like the worst person you should be sort of asking their opinions on like, should we have like conveniences in the game? I mean, I'll be mad if they even have like joining like flight paths.
I have a big question for you, Lhok. A lot of people have said, oh, well, I don't want changes, but this change is okay. Oh, I don't want changes, but yeah, I could deal with guild banks. I won't advocate for it, but if they give us guild banks, that's fine. Or a mount tab, or a tabard tab, or a pet tab. Personally, in all honesty, I think that compromising our inventory management does impact the core gameplay experience. I think that people who want to be able to gold farm on their main and they simultaneously want to have all these different gear sets, they want to be they want to experience everything. They want to have the battle pets, they want to have the cool mounts, they want to have their frost saber and their Zulian tiger, and they want to have professions. They've got all this engineering crap in their bags. It takes away from the game if you can just secret all that away in your Uber bank and then now you can go and farm Dire Maul in peace. And I don't like that. I currently in retail there's such an abundance of farming dungeons over and over and over for drops, like soloing them, for gold and stuff. And I think that inventory management is going to severely limit how that all carries out in vanilla, and I wouldn't want to see that changed. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't particularly like the idea of having like mount tabs, tabs, all that sort of stuff. I do think it was part of like vanilla's like gameplay. You had to manage your inventory. The one thing that I did actually like when it came out was the keychain that we were given in Classic, because I had all the keys for all of the dungeons. That just freed up I think I ended up having like 12 keys or 8 keys. It was something to that effect. So that cleared up like that, but it also meant that I didn't like have to go looking all around and try and find the key that I needed to open up the dungeon. So that's probably like the most that I would want for like those sorts of conveniences.
Keyring at start?
No.
Fine. I wouldn't be like, okay, I agree with you that I'm not asking for it, right? Keyring in the patch progression would be my preference, but I don't think that's breaking the game or impacting the core gameplay experience for the keyring thing. I think that's like very minimal, but something like a guild bank or a tab for certain collections, I think that like completely overhauls the inventory management aspect. Vaski, I did want to get your say on that because I feel like you have a different opinion than us. I don't want you to be afraid to say it.
I'm actually not afraid to say it. People can totally like lose their minds over it. Current retail WoW, I'm a huge collector. I have a massive amount of achievements. I have a massive amount of mounts. I have a massive amount of toys. I have a massive amount of everything. And what does frustrate me, and this is just me personally, and it doesn't have to happen. It's not going to break me from playing the game. But like, doesn't have to be transmog. I don't care about that. Whatever. It's mini pets. Like, there was so many, like, there wasn't a ton of mini pets, but there was enough that I collected and furiously collected back then that I would like even just a tiny bag for them. Little bitty bag. There's just something to collect all those little tiny things. Or like, for instance, like I kept my scepter and all these like certain tabards into like a tabard, just even like it doesn't have to be transmoggable, but even like a vendor when it comes to like tabards like we have current, to be able to go back and buy it or just obtain it when I needed it for different outfits, because that's just how I am. But I mean, to each their own on it, but I'm a big avid collector, and I would like just a little bit of an easement, not a massive one. I don't need to be stroked and pet and being satisfied. I just need that little tiny bit of satisfaction, like the keyring, for instance.
And that's a valid opinion. Like,
Thanks.
it's controversial to say that. Like, people come on to these like classic discussions and they kind of say what the mainstream opinion is and they uphold that and they're afraid to say anything that goes against that, but like, it's a discussion that we need to have. I don't think Vaski's in the majority from at least the classic community. So I'd be surprised if we saw something like that um, with like easements for collectors. But there's definitely a sizable portion of the community who wants that, and you can't, it's not correct to silence those people. So I just want to say that they can voice their opinion, and their opinion's valid too. But Blizzard's gonna do what works best for the majority, and I don't feel like I'm getting the impression people would be happy if they did that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, for one, I just have an opinion on it. It's just like something very minuscule. It doesn't break me on it from playing the game. It's not gonna ruin my experience whatsoever because I played it. But little things like that for like mini pets would make me happy. That's the girl in me going, ee mini pets. Not battle pets, just a way to collect my mini pets without taking up so much bag space.
I know, because I'm gonna be that person who plays my vanilla character for as long as that server is running. Like, I will try and literally hoard everything possible on that character. I'm the kind of person who's gonna be like in the Valley of Trials, and I get that little mallet to whack the peons and wake them up with, and I'm gonna be like, oh, this mallet's kind of cool. I could whack a Lhok with this mallet. I'm not gonna turn this quest in. I'm gonna keep this mallet forever and ever and ever, and I'm gonna name it, and it's gonna be just for whacking Lhok with. And like,
I thought you said that. I'm like, wait, whack a Lhok?
I mean, that's the same thing. Like, for instance, if you're Alliance and you went to the original area and got Dartal's Rod, you never got rid of that thing.
right.
Stuck around forever.
And I don't want to be deterred from collecting all these things, but I'm just gonna have to make multiple characters. I'm gonna have to prioritize. I'm gonna have to say, this is the toon where I collect freaking all the quest rewards that do funny, cool things, and I'm not gonna have battle pets on that character because it's impossible. You can't have everything on one toon, and I know that probably kills you, Vaski, because you on retail you have one toon and you get everything on that one toon, and I think I'm willing to accept that if I want to have everything, I'm just gonna have to segment it out across my characters and try and be like, this is the battle pet toon and this is the random gimmicky reputation rewards toon.
And I hate to say that, is like back in vanilla, I had characters like that. One tune was for this, one tune was for this, and like it was interchangeable. Like, so yeah, I don't know. It's teach their own. I think it won't break me is what I'm saying. I like it's something that I think would be cool. But once again, it's all down to the community and making sure everybody is all across the board happy, and it makes a immaculate fun community that we all jump right back into again.
And the issue of guild banks and inventory space and stuff, I feel like that's really heavily needs to be discussed. People shouldn't be afraid to discuss it because it needs to be discussed. There's also the issue of stacking items. A lot of people aren't aware that back in vanilla, a lot of items would only stack to like 5, right? And things like this, it all really adds up to being a nightmare for some people. There's some people who might really be turned off from the game simply because they're not used to inventory management. That might be an aspect of the game that they really dislike. So it's definitely a worthwhile conversation. I'm personally not advocating for changes, but as I said, like my mandate of the entire thing, if the majority of the community legitimately wants it to change, then I will defer to that. I want Classic to be fun for as many people as possible, and I can live with that version of Classic. That's the realization I kind of came to keep myself sane, because if I'm holding the Classic WoW devs to my own expectations of my own ideal server, I will just be disappointed because they can't please everyone. So that's unrealistic to expect.
Definitely.
So I have the conversations, I'll have my opinion, you have yours, and Blizzard will decide which opinion is in the best interest of the majority of players.
Absolutely. That's what it all boils down to, is making sure the community is great, and it all boils down to the game releasing what the community feels and being authentic. And Def Camp and Melderon puts the total fact out that we both get retail and classic out of this whole entire adventure with this company. So I mean, we're getting the best of both worlds. In
Yeah,
the end, you really don't need those updates because you can go to classic to get your fun, gritty look that you want, and then going back to retail where I can collect things galore, and that's awesome.
that's actually a really good point because Blizzard understands as a company that they're trying to cast a wide net and they're trying to get as many subscribers as they can from different, uh, let's say, that have different opinions, right? And as we've all heard many times, in most cases, retail players are very different from classic players. The three of us are the weird unicorns, to be frank, that have played since vanilla and that are still playing the game and still like both, and we're still going to play classic, and that's rare. There's not that many people who are still obsessed with WoW today who played in vanilla, and who've been on retail that whole time. That's we're the minority, so we also can't really expect everyone else to kind of feel the way we do, especially about our patch progression. Lhok.
Right, right.
I,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
wanted
We started on
1.2.
patch. Yeah. I wanted 1.2 as well.
I mean, 1.2 really wasn't bad. It was really good fun. So I mean, I will agree with you guys on that one.
Without the crashes though.
Yeah, clearly, yes, yes, of course, of course.
But hey, we still don't know what they're gonna do. And even if it's running on a 1.12 client, it's still on the table. This doesn't make it sound likely to me, to be honest. In addition, all of the interviews they've done in the past, they're not presenting me with the feeling that they're going to implement the patches the way they were with the same lapses of time between them. It really doesn't sound likely to me, but it's still on the table. So we don't have to be totally sad and decrepit and curling up in a ball and like, I will never have Classic the way I want. We can still have some hope.
I'm pretty happy. I'm just excited for the fact that like there's a possibility I can get that community again. That's my favorite thing out of vanilla was community, and I'm hoping this is my biggest thing is that building that community again and having that tight knit in these realms and whatnot. And that's what I really absolutely loved is just everybody talk to each other. And I can't wait for that. I would love to see that again. That like I know I have my hopes up for that, and some people are like that's long gone with Blizzard, but you never know, they could be revitalized again, and that's what I would love that so much.
Yeah, I'd really like a return to the server communities too. Like I get why they went cross realm because there's people who wouldn't want to leave their server, and it's not fair on them to not be able to have like people to play with and all that sort of stuff. But I think a lot of the problems that started with that was because of the cross realm stuff. But that's another story.
Right, definitely another story.
I'd love to see a WoW one day where we can not have region locking and we can just have the technology to have stable servers where we can have a global server. I think that
I wish that was the case but a thing with like Blizzard, and sorry to slightly cut you off, is just because there's different ESRB ratings like in EU, and it's really hard to bring that over because I have so many EU friends that I want to play with, and I have an EU account to play with my EU friends. There would be nothing more than I'd love to have that global interlinking. I mean, we still kind of do, but even like in BattleNet, I have to like go to EU to have my EU friends like that. That's really, I find that kind of appalling that we have to have that much of a separation.
I've heard that it's for legal reasons and it's not something that they can change. But in an ideal world, I would love to have that. I mean, that should be obvious. We have a very multicultural group here, and if Lhok is getting lag on the US realms, at least the US and AU realms are part of the same ecosphere. But our other counterpart, Wrynn Wiki, is over in Europe, so he's going to have to make a US account if he wants to play with us, most likely.
Right, exactly.
In any case, I feel like we kind of addressed everything in the water cooler. I think there might have been just the end there that you still had to read. Or did you read it all?
Nope, we read it all.
Well, did you guys have any, like, final points? Or, I don't know, do you guys in the chat have any questions for us? We can probably take, if you had any questions regarding, you know, our plans for Classic, or if you're curious about anything, let us know. But did you guys have any, like, final points that you really wanted to touch on?
No, I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think we did a thorough cover on what we wanted to dive in and kind of discuss.
Are you guys going to be playing the beta if you get it? Like, what would happen if you got a beta invite, right? Would you just drop everything and play it? Would you just casually test it? Like, what would you do? Would you jump up and down and cry?
I'd be dropping everything and playing it immediately. It'd be hands down, like I will be focusing on that wholeheartedly.
If I got invited to the beta, I would not play any other game. I would just like test it until the cows come home.
I would probably fit it in around my other sort of like responsibilities that I have, like so around my like rating, M plus PvP, that sort of stuff. It would definitely like be something that I would try and test out extensively, given my like other commitments and time and stuff.
Cool, cool, awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. We have a turnout of a lot of new people who I've never really seen in the stream before. We usually do lore and speculation streams. This is our second classic stream ever, but we are planning to do a classic stream every other Wednesday. We're basically interchanging them. So we stream every single Wednesday, but we're going to do like one lore, one classic, one lore, one classic. So hopefully you guys will stick around for that. We do have a Discord channel that we're super active in. We have a really, really amazing community in there already. I mean, we're a really new channel. We just started on YouTube in April, I believe. And I don't know, like it's amazing. It's amazing the support that we've received and that all you guys are here from the classic community now, so a lot of people we haven't met. It's amazing. So if any of you guys want to join the Discord, we're in there like every single day talking about classic or retail. We talk about both, but it's mostly, you know, nerding out about classic and lore, I would say.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for coming out. It's really great to hear that you guys enjoyed it. So we look forward to having you guys around more and hanging out with us and chatting with us. And of course, as Shirviu said, we do have a Discord and we're in there quite often. Like it's a pretty busy Discord for it being brand new and fairly small still.
See you later, guys. Thanks for like coming and watching. That's the other guys have pretty much said it all for me, so I'm just glad you guys came and we have this chat.
Make sure you watch out for Lhok if you roll on her server. Make sure that you keep your distance.
I am a saint. I am a saint.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Bye,
You're gonna be
guys.
dueling often. Me and you. Me and you. Bye, guys.
See you next time.